What's going on, my fellow high-stim pre-workout enthusiasts? Hope you guys are having an amazing day. Hope you guys are going to crush this Friday, going into the weekend, and just have an incredible weekend. So this right here is episode 2 of Real Talk with Ace. If you haven't seen last week's episode 1, then I urge you to go and watch that right now, because this here is going to build upon the foundations of what I laid down in that first episode. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of topics, but really, we're going to talk about my friend Joel. In case you guys didn't watch the episode, I'm going to tell you that Joel was a good friend of mine who I knew on and off for many years, and he's really the one that was responsible for me essentially getting into the whole fitness and more specifically gym lifestyle, because I did do cardio, I did do swimming a little bit here and there. I used to bike a lot. I still love bicycling, one of my favorite activities, cardio activities to this very day. I'm not talking about stationary bikes, guys. I'm talking about real actual bicycling, right? So Joel was the one that got me into lifting weights, and I really owe an entire massive debt of gratitude to Joel, because he got me into this entire lifestyle. I touched upon Joel in the last episode, and that's why I'm saying, guys, if you haven't seen that episode, then watch episode 1 of Real Talk with Ace. I'm gonna link it down below. I did talk about my obesity and my weed addiction in that episode, and how I overcame those 2 addictions that were crippling me in every way imaginable. So watch that episode and then come back to this one if you haven't seen that very first episode. Okay, let's begin, guys. So let's talk about my friend Joel. Joel was a very, very interesting guy, and I go way, way back with him. I actually knew him from the 4th grade, and we were in the same class together. He was in my school from the 4th till 6th grade, I believe. He was a very, very quiet dude. He used to sit in the corner, used to kind of have his head buried in books. He used to love reading, as did I, as do I to this day. I still love reading. I don't get to read as much as I used to because of, I don't have a lot of time the way I had back then, and, short attention spans because of smartphones and stuff like that. So I don't read as much as I used to, but I digress. Joel was constantly reading, and he was kind of quiet kid. He was always sitting in the corner and whatever. He didn't really interact with many people. So I technically know Joel from the 4th grade, but again, we didn't have any contact back then. So fast forward to high school, where I'm about 15 or 16 years old, and I didn't have a lot of friends in my high school. I had a couple of friends, but really I was more close with a different group of friends. Basically, I had a friend named Jerry. He was from Syrian descent, and I met Jerry in one of these it was like a program for teenagers, essentially to keep teens off the street. And it was a place where a lot of people would meet and interact and whatever. And they provided food, there was a TV, there was a pool table. It was kind of like a lounge for teenagers. It was funded by a local charity organization. I believe they exist to this very day. So it was really, really cool. And I met him over there. And I remember I was, 15, 16 years old, rebellious teenager phase. And I went into the room, and they were smoking hookah. Now, I don't know if you guys know what hookah is, but in the Middle East, it's very popular. It's also referred to as nargila. It's essentially like a water pipe base. So you fill it up with water, and there's a bowl on top which you fill with tobacco, and you have these pipes, right? So some of them have 1 pipe, other ones have 2 or 3 pipes, and you pull the pipe and then you exhale. Hookah's pretty popular. You guys probably know what hookah is. But anyway, I remember my first time going into this lounge, or whatever you want to call it, right? This youth community gathering, and I met this guy Jerry. He was a Syrian dude, not from Syria. He was born here in America, but his family was from Syria. Anyway, he had a hookah at home. His dad smoked hookah. It's very traditional, and at 15 years old, I tried it. I liked it. It was flavored. I think it was the apple flavor, and I really got hooked on hookah. Okay, so that's what got me started with smoking, and I kind of got hooked on it for a couple of years, if I'm being honest. I became very close friends with him, and he had his little circle of friends, and we kind of started hanging out in this little lounge community, whatever. And then we started hanging out at his place, and our social circle kind of grew. So I'm 15, 16 years old at the time. Mind you, I don't have a lot of friends in my high school because I was in an old boys school. It was a private school, and I didn't want to be there. I was there against my will, and I didn't bond so much with anybody there. I had like maybe 3 friends in the entire high school. But my friend Jerry, and I had a couple of other friends, Alan and a couple of other people, and we kind of started hanging out. It became a regular hangout for us, even outside of this community. And we started hanging out, and then eventually when I was like 17, 18, that's when I started getting into cigarettes and into weed. I started smoking weed right before I turned 18 years old. And really, these were the friends that I was kind of associating with and hanging out with the entire time. So Joel, to bring it back to Joel, he apparently knew Jerry from, I don't even know how the hell they knew each other, but they knew each other. And at that point, our social group got a little bigger, so I was hanging out with them from 15 till about 19. And at that point, the group got a little bit bigger. So Joel came in, and I recognized him. Of course, he looked a little bit different from when I knew him. He was like a small, scrawny, nerdy kid back then. And now he's suddenly pretty buff, and he was a gym goer. He loved going to the gym, and that was something that he did for many, many years. So this was me at about 19, 20 years old. I went to college at that point, and I actually kind of lost touch with that group of people. I started hanging out with them less and less over the years. But I was still smoking weed. I was very addicted, but I also was becoming a little bit more antisocial because of the weed addiction that I was going through. And essentially, I didn't drop them as friends, but I was hanging out with them a whole lot less. Now, fast forward right now till I'm 28 years old. You guys know 28 is the special number for me. That's where I took the stress test by the doctor's office, and they wanted to put me on blood pressure medication and all that fun stuff. So 28 was the pivotal changing point in my life. And at that point, I quit cigarettes, I quit hookah, I quit the weed, and I quit junk food, and I really put my life on track. Now, we're going to fast forward once again to 29, 30 years old, right? It's about 4.5 years ago. And Joel, again, reemerged in my life. I was hanging out with my friend Jerry, who I haven't seen in a little while. And Joel happened to be there as well, right? Jerry had like a little gathering by his house, and there was a couple of people from back in the day that I knew from the little teen program. And, like a lot of them didn't smoke weed anymore. A lot of them don't do hookah anymore. Some of them still did. There was a hookah going around. I didn't smoke it, but again, I didn't hang out with these guys in years, and it was like a little reunion gathering kind of situation. And so we're hanging out by Jerry's house, and Joel was there, and I started catching up with him. The guy was in really good shape at that point. He had like a bit of a beer belly. He was very into drinking his beers, but other than that, the guy had a big upper body, broad shoulders, muscular, and he was in good shape. So again, I'm 30 years old at this point, or late 29. So I'm already on my weight loss journey. I was already down maybe 50, 60 pounds from the initial 390 that I was at. So I was still heavy, I was still overweight, but I was noticeably slimmer. And my friends saw me for the first time, and they said, "Wow, Isaac, you slimmed down, blah blah blah. How have you been? What have you been doing? Whatever." And I caught up with everybody. We're hanging out. I'm telling them about my weight loss journey and all that stuff. I'm doing cardio and everything. And Joel comes up to me and he says, "Listen, if you want to take things to the next level, you got to start hitting the weights. Do you want to come train with me? They just opened a new Planet Fitness here, and it's cheap. It's like $10, $12 a month. Do you want to sign up and come train with me?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to. Why not?" So we exchanged numbers, because we actually never had each other's numbers back then. And we linked up a few days later. We went to the Planet Fitness. And man, it was such a cool experience. Joel is a very, very interesting dude. He's an introvert, but when you get close to him, he's actually very interesting. And it turns out we had a lot in common. We actually really enjoyed similar video games. So there's a subgenre of video games called JRPGs. If you guys don't know what that is, it stands for Japanese role-playing games. So it's essentially games like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, Persona. They're very story-driven games from Japan. A lot of times they have Japanese themes in them. They're very similar to anime with their aesthetic, and I like those kind of games. I'm a big JRPG fan. I don't game as much as I used to. I don't have the time to play games like that, but back in the day I played Final Fantasy 6 through 10 numerous times, Kingdom Hearts, and all the other obscure games, Star Ocean. Like, I was a big fan of all these Japanese role-playing games, and so was Joel. And we kind of bonded over that while we're training, and it turned out we had a lot in common. And I said, "Holy crap, man, it's crazy. We were in the same school together in the 4th grade, and like, you were a ghost, and I was just whatever, doing whatever I was doing back then, and yeah, we never knew that we had so much in common. It's freaking crazy." And anyway, the months passed, we trained together. He taught me a lot of stuff. Joel was a funny dude. He was very into his whole bro science thing, and I don't know if he genuinely believed in a lot of this stuff or if it was a gimmick with him. Like, this dude's a character, right? Like, I'll give you an example, right? So we'd go to the gym. he'd always be flexing in the mirrors and everything and making funny comments. But like as soon as we'd be done the workout, this dude would run, not walk, he'd run to the locker room, and he had his 2 scoops of protein ready to go, and he would chug it like literally immediately after the workout. And he told me, listen bro, if you don't drink the protein right after the workout, you're losing half of your gains. 50% of the gains are going straight in the garbage. And again, I don't know if he actually believed this stuff or if it was a gimmick with him, but either way, it was entertaining, it was part of his character. And you know, I enjoyed that lifestyle. You got to understand that I was a nerdy kid growing up. You know, I had a small select group of friends. I was very much introverted, playing World of Warcraft and, you know, these JRPG games, reading books. Like, that was my life, you know? That was the things I did for fun, reading, video games, all these nerdy things that I used to do. And here I am going in a completely different path in my life, going into the gym bro culture, which I never, you know, I wasn't an athlete growing up. I did play basketball on my high school team very briefly for about half a season because I was tall. But other than that, I've never really been like an athlete. I've never been into lifting weights and stuff. And here I am now in a gym surrounded by people lifting weights and grunting and whatever. Well, maybe not too much grunting at Planet Fitness. If you know, you know. But anyway, I digress. We had a lot of epic training sessions, and it was all good until it wasn't. So one thing about Joel that I didn't mention is that Joel suffered from bipolar disorder. And when I say bipolar disorder, I'm not saying it like today, you know, kids, especially Gen Z, they misdiagnose themselves. They say, oh, I'm dealing with depression. Oh, I'm bipolar. I'm this. I'm autistic, you know. No, I'm not talking about it as a figure of speech. This dude was legitimately diagnosed with bipolar. So in case you don't know what bipolar is, essentially you go through 2 stages, being manic and then being depressed. So when you're manic, you're essentially, it's like you have a high, but every single day. You're on top of the world, you feel great, you're energized, you're motivated, you're positive, you have this infectious energy, it's amazing, right? But the problem is that it doesn't last forever. So you're gonna have your, you're gonna have your manic phase, right? And then the higher you go with the manic phase, the harder that crash is gonna be straight down to the depression. So you do need to treat it with medication and stuff. And he had a lot of issues over the years with his health insurance, whatever, and he wasn't able to really always have the meds. It was very, very complicated situation. But anyway, we had amazing workouts for a couple of months, all was great. And again, this is around the time I'm like 30 years old, right? So about 4 years ago, the Planet Fitness days, he fell into a crazy pit of depression randomly out of nowhere. And at that point, you know, we're training together for about 4 or 5 months. I put on a little bit of muscle, you know, newbie gains and everything. I'm also keeping track of my calories, so I'm losing fat, I'm putting on muscle, and I'm starting to feel myself. You know, I got to the point where I get to the gym, I'm wearing a tank top for the first time, and you know, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling confident. And really I owed a lot of it to him. He really showed me proper form. He taught me about different types of training, splits, you know, supersets, all the stuff that you learn in the gym. Like, this dude taught me everything. He was my bro-fessor, if you will. So when he was out of commission and he was depressed and he started hitting the bottle, man, when I tell you he started drinking himself to slumber, I had to help him out, and I felt really bad. I didn't know what to do. I don't know if he had the medication or he didn't. He kind of shut down completely and he went off the radar. So I tried reaching him, but he deactivated his number. He switched over to a Google number, and then he only messaged me on WhatsApp. He said that he started getting paranoid, you know, and I guess it has to do with the bipolar disorder. You get paranoid. He started getting paranoid and saying that he doesn't want his calls to be traced and whatever. So we started talking just on WhatsApp, through voice notes and through calls on WhatsApp. And then WhatsApp wasn't good enough anymore, so he switched over to Telegram. So I downloaded Telegram just so I can keep in touch with him. I wanted to make sure he's okay, whatever. I'm like, listen, bro, come out to the gym with me. You know, let's go to the park, whatever. He lived by the park. There's a park I've been going to for many years, and there's this nature trail next to the park. I go there to meditate sometimes and to do other stuff, sun gazing meditation. There's a whole bunch of stuff I do there, and you know, maybe it's something I can record for the channel down the line, some sun gazing meditation or whatever. But anyway, we tried to link up. I tried getting in touch with him, but this dude was like, it was the worst. I've seen some of his bipolar depressive phases in the past, and they usually lasted a few weeks, but he was in a slump for like 3-4 months. And after that, when I met up with him, he never quite went back to that old manic phase. And we did have a couple of workouts. I took him to the gym with me, and we even tried to just hang out as friends. You know, we'd come back to my place, we'd order some food, watch some anime, whatever, because he was also into certain anime. I think we watched like Code Geass together. We watched Full Metal Alchemist, and there's a couple of other, you know, he was into like those dark, serious shows, Berserk, Steins Gate, shows that I'm into. I like that dark, mature kind of anime. I'm not into like these cutesy, you know, silly anime. We're also obviously into Dragon Ball Z because that is gym motivation, right? Super Saiyan and all that fun stuff. But we watched that stuff and we hung out a few times, but the spark we had, that motivation in the gym that he really brought onto me with that manic phase of his, that never returned. And I feel like the friendship kind of fizzled out a little bit. We were hanging out less and less, and then he just disappeared one day. The guy disappeared, and I tried getting in touch with him, and all his contact information was gone. His Telegram, his WhatsApp, I couldn't reach him. So about 2 years passed. So yeah, I was 32 at that time. Haven't heard from him in about 2 years. I reached out to my friend Jerry, who, you know, he was a mutual friend of ours. That's the guy with the hookah, right? Hookah Jerry. And he told me that Joel is living in Texas. I don't know, apparently they still keep in touch once or twice a month, a little bit, but Joel's always the type to move around a lot. He's kind of a nomad. Like, this dude's been to parts of Asia, he's been in Europe, he moves around a lot. And I don't know if that has to do with his bipolar or whatever, his manic phase, but he does that. He moves around a lot. And he's apparently in Texas. Last I heard, like 2 years ago, he's in Texas, but, you know, I told him, I told Jerry I want to talk to Joel. And he said, listen, Joel doesn't want to give his number out, but I'll pass your information to him. If he wants to reach out, he'll reach out. So here we are 2 years later, and I still haven't heard a word from him. And it's sad because I really owe a lot to him. And I don't think I would have been where I am today on this path if it wasn't for Joel, because he really put me on that gym lifestyle where it was more than just going to work out for health reasons. The gym became my sanctuary, it became my escape, and it became my addiction. The gym is my drug. So, you know, to replace all the weed and everything over the years, the gym is now my drug. That's where I get my dopamine rush from, and what keeps me going. That's why a lot of times I'm in the gym 5-6 days a week. Even if my body's shot and I'm supposed to be at home resting, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to continue pumping, because mentally it helps clear the noise in my head. So I really owe all that to Joel. And it breaks my heart that I can't help him out the way he helped me out, because we were like brothers, man. There was like a 5-6 month period of time where me and him were hanging out almost every day, hitting the gym every day, and we were like brothers, man. We were so freaking close. And it's sad because I wish I could help. I wish I could reach out and talk to him and try to motivate him and help him the way he helped me. But listen, some people, you can't help everybody. That's the moral of the story, I guess. That sometimes you can try to help everybody, and there's a saying, you can drag the horse to the pond, but you can't force the horse to drink, right? So it's essentially the same thing. You can try to do everything in your power to help somebody, but if they don't want to help themselves, if that doesn't come from within them, there's nothing you can do. And that's the moral of the story, guys. So that's it. That's my story about Joel. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a little bit of a bittersweet story because, again, this guy was instrumental in me becoming who I am today. But at the same time, I wish I had closure. I wish I knew that he's doing okay. And maybe he is doing okay. Maybe he's in Texas. Maybe he's living with a girl or something. And maybe he's doing all right. Who the hell knows? But I don't know. And my friend Jerry, I kind of lost touch with him also. He got married, kids, he moved to Jersey, and he's living his own life. Listen, it happens, you know? So that's essentially it, guys. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. Wanted to share a little bit of that backstory of my life with you guys, my beloved audience. So this has been episode 2 of Real Talk with Ace. I hope you enjoyed it. I think the next episode, I'm really going to delve into the weed addiction and break it down further, because in that first episode I talked about weed more than I wanted to. It was essentially supposed to be an episode just about my obesity, but they do go hand in hand, right? It was 2 vices I had to get rid of simultaneously. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a wonderful, productive weekend. I will see you all in the next episode. Take care, everybody. Ace, signing off.